Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello, and welcome back to Joe on Joe Extreme. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and I am ready this week with an exciting episode, a really cool episode, very much a throwback episode to the Real American Hero days, where our team explores the Bermuda Triangle in an episode entitled Fear at 50 Fathoms. Say that 5 times fast. And I am so happy to welcome listener of the show and new friend of the show, calling in from Long Island, New York. It's John Earl. John, welcome to Joe on Joe Extreme.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, thanks for being here, man. So, John, you are you're calling from Long Island. You're an artist.
Yes.
Welcome to Joe on Joe. Tell us all about your adventures in G.I. Joe. When did you first become a fan of G.I. Joe itself?
Wow. Aside from breathing, I haven't really done many things as long as being into G.I. Joe. I am a little bit older than the average Joe fan collector. I've been at this from the beginning, in 1982. I was 11 years old, and my brother and I were taken into Toys R Us as a treat to pick out something, and I started kind of straying away from the Star Wars action figures, which was such a big part of our childhood, and I thought I was kind of done with action figures at 11 going on 12. And then I think I might have seen the commercials for the comic books or the toys themselves on TV, and so it was on the back of my radar, what's this G.I. Joe thing? And obviously I had heard of G.I. Joe before. When I was even younger, I had some 12-inch Adventure Team pieces, and Grunt caught my eye. The 1982
Grunt
action figure.
Grunt. I love Grunt, but the most generic of all G.I. Joes.
And I was so excited, he was for the first 2 years or so, he was the poster child, the image bearer of the brand.
Yeah, he was.
And for a little while, in my young mind, he was the leader. He was the main guy. And my brother went with Flash, and those were our 2 first action figures. And I've always had a soft spot for Grunt all these years later.
That's great. Do you still have that actual Grunt, and does your brother have that actual Flash? Or did they get destroyed through play?
They have had their fair share of battles, but with my brother actually being the one that did grow up and I just refused to, I have kind of absorbed his collection into mine, and there's no hard feelings there. My brother has just moved on to other things, and Flash is in good hands with me. But those 2 figures are the O-ring is rotted away. The thumbs are broken.
No, it's just going to ask about the thumbs.
They have definitely, had their battles, really taken a toll on them. But over the years, I've been collecting and replacing the things that might have been a little too beat up. Being a little bit older, I didn't really play with them for too many more years after that. They became more of a open it up, put it together, and put this really cool thing in a display or diorama.
Wow.
And enjoy them in that way.
So you were
my
doing
original collection.
Yeah, you were doing like collector level stuff back in the early 80s, which was not
pretty early on.
Yeah, and that was not really a collector time.
I just loved it. My father was a big train collector, and I think that was what put the bug in my brain.
Did you get the G.I. Joe? Did you get the G.I. Joe train?
I have that. Yeah.
Oh,
I have that. Yeah.
I'm gonna get my hands on that one day. I don't have any room for it, so it would just be sitting in a box deep in a closet right now. But that is one of those awesome pieces of ephemera that I really want to get my hands on. I had a train set and a trucking set when I was a kid. And
the trucking set in complete form still eludes me. I've seen it from time to time. It's on some of the Joe shows. And I should say, it's bittersweet that we're not at Joe Fest right now. Joe Fest is going on.
Yeah,
in
Atlanta,
it is. Georgia. Yeah. But I'm super excited that we still get to talk Joe with each other today on the weekend of Joe Fest.
Absolutely.
And
Have you
it's
gone? Have you gone to any of the other Joe Fests?
I haven't been to a Joe Fest, but with the GI Joe conventions run by Fun Publications,
Yeah, sure. The Joe
I
or
went
yeah,
I
or
went
Joe
to
Con or Joe Fest. Sure.
right. I went to all of those with the exception of the 2009 show that was in August of 2009, and the only reason I missed that was my first child was going to be born at some point that month, and I wasn't going to miss that. And I
Oh,
thought my wife
congratulations.
is well, thank you. My wife is super nice and understanding and patient with my collection. But 11 years ago, I would have had my head handed to me if
Yeah,
I
well,
went to the
sure.
first shot.
My quick anecdote. My parents got married. My father wasn't looking ahead, and they got married in the first week of deer hunting season in Wyoming, which my dad goes to every single year. I don't. Maybe they must not have started that at the time, but for their they'll be married 50 years this year. Shout out Mary Jane. Mary Jane. Shout out Mary Lynn and Ski. If you guys are listening, they'll be married 50 years this year, and he's been going hunting in Wyoming, and it's always the same. The first week of hunting season is absolutely always their around October 17th, which is their anniversary. So
Awesome.
yeah, so I was always like, Dad, it was just poor planning on your part. Like, why? So,
Yeah.
what is your first child? Was it a boy or a girl?
He was our son, Bobby. He's
Awesome.
going to be turning 11
How did you not?
already.
How did you not? Well, Bobby. Oh, wait a minute. Did you name him Bobby after Robert Graves, Grunt, your first GI Joe love? Did we? Is this true?
A happy coincidence. He's named
Oh,
after my dad.
you say that. You say that. I got another friend who named
Don't blow it.
who's
Don't blow it.
awesome. He named his kids Parker and Riley, and they're great. They're a great family, good friends, John and Amy. And after Riley was born, I said, John, you realize you just named both your children after Spider-Man? And he kind of looked at me. I went, yeah, Ben Riley, Peter
I knew
Parker. Yeah, and he goes, oh my God, you're right. That's awesome. Don't tell Amy. So how many kids?
But
How many?
it's been
Yeah, how many kids do you have, John?
We have three. We have Bobby, and he's the oldest, and then we have Saya, who just turned 7 and lost a whole bunch of teeth. Naturally.
I was
Naturally.
just gonna say, I hope naturally, not because she's training to be UFC.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
I don't put anything past her. And Ivana is our youngest, and she's 5. She'll be starting kindergarten on Tuesday.
Nice.
And obviously, lots of different situations going on with school right now, but still going to make the most of it. And
Yeah. Now,
very excited.
are any of them GI Joe fans?
My son is definitely heading in the right step. It's always very interesting, when you know so much about the history of GI Joe and you grew up with it like we did. You really can't begin to fathom the magnitude of how popular Snake Eyes is to the brand.
Oh yeah.
And from what I've pieced together over the years and interviews and reading the development of that character was a happy mistake. That wasn't supposed to be the plan for Snake Eyes. He just, because he was so visually different, he just took off and resonated with fans of all ages.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally to save costs that figure was without colors.
Yeah.
It was originally planned to have some colors, and they as a cost-cutting measure, they kept it simple and minimalistic, and boom, he just stood out and became the flag bearer of the line. Fast forward all these years later, my son is going through and looking at my figures, and I have so many that he could look at and gravitate to. Who does he go to? Boom, Snake Eyes,
Yeah.
1985. Snake Eyes or Timber. That was the first. That was the figure he, out of all the figures on my shelves and showcases, that was the one that he just zeroed in on. And again,
that is legit the best. That is my all-time Snake Eyes. As much as like these new classifieds look great, and then there was that one, I think it was the 25th anniversary, like the Super Commando version, which is amazing.
Yeah. It's a mini sideshow figure.
Yeah, like it's so good. I get it. But there's a simplicity and a beauty to that V2 Snake Eyes that, for my money, will never be matched, because it's got just enough accoutrement to it, but it's not overly done, and he's still dangerous, and he's got a freaking wolf.
Yeah.
I mean,
they
yeah,
nailed
that,
it. They nailed it. And
yeah,
and even more astounding is his nemesis slash brother, Storm Shadow from 1984. Same thing. So iconic. You can't top it, no
right.
matter how many renditions you want to spin off, and some of them are fantastic as
Mm-hmm.
well. But nothing resonates what Storm Shadow is more than that figure. And
Yeah, and
so you know,
as of this recording, I think they're about to announce more classified figures that are going to kind of follow the movie looks a little bit closer. So I think we're going to be seeing another version of Storm Shadow. But the Storm Shadow they've released, that's Arctic Storm Shadow, looks good. Like he looks it's a well designed character. Like, so let me compliment it in that regard. But
mhm,
again, I going back to I want the simplicity of just the dude all in white with a
yeah,
few good looking weapons on him, and his bow, and like there's something perfect about that version of Storm Shadow. So whenever I do see him all decoed up, like, I didn't love his camouflage look either. Like when I see him with anything outside of the kind of all white look, it doesn't feel right to me. Like, it doesn't resonate with me, even though full compliments.
absolutely,
These new
yeah,
figures look great, and and the other figures, they were for the most part good design figured, but there is something so pure about that version of Storm Shadow that's just fantastic.
100%, 100% agree. I think what Hasbro is doing right now is they're trying to appease several masters here. They have the diehard collectors that are old timers like myself, that they're trying to keep hooked,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have to build that new audience, and that's if when my son was super excited to get that classified Snake Eyes, that's the magic in the bottle that they need to do, and the the transition they're doing now, that paradigm shift, if you will, is what the 3 3/4 inch fans are looking at, kind of like from the outside in, looking at the 6 inch line, is almost like the 12 inch fans back in 1981 and 82 when they heard, if they did hear, that there was going to be this transition into the 3 3/4 inch scale.
Yeah.
It's such a big leap, and I wouldn't be shocked if 6 inch is the only way it goes moving forward. Hopefully, there's still crumbs left of the 3 3/4, 4 inch scale fellas like
Mm-hmm.
us, but the writings on the wall at 6 inch is the market right now. Marvel Legends is red hot. Star
Right.
Wars Black Series red hot, and and they'd be foolish not to jump into that scale. They own the property. There's no licensing fee for them to
Right.
deal with that.
Well,
So
it sounds like you're pretty well versed in toy world. What's your, like, current? Are you a toy collector broadly right now? Like more than just GI Joe, or like, it sounds like you got a pretty good finger on the pulse of that market. Tell me more about your personal collection these days.
sure. Well, Star Wars is still you know represented. My friend Mike can attest to this. I go through kind of like an all or nothing phase. I have tunnel vision when it comes to my collecting. So right now, ever since COVID hit, for better or worse, it just something sparked. Whether it was the the news that a 6 inch scale for GI Joe is finally coming with the classified line, something just clicked in me that to just dive back into my GI Joe collection, and it's always been there, and I've always maintained it over the years. I've never stopped, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it would be, oh, there's a couple pieces out, let me just pick that up and put it away for now until I can really focus on it. Because right now I might be focusing on building up my stormtroopers, for this diorama that I'm working in my Star Wars collection. So in answer to your question, yes, I have Star Wars, I have Marvel Legends, mostly an even split between the Toy Biz and the Hasbro versions of them. Uh, and for a while, I was a completist with everything I did as far as the Hasbro lines. I didn't go crazy with the import items for Star Wars and Marvel and the higher end hot toy type things, as brilliant as they are, I just couldn't go down that rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
But with the 6-inch scale, I had all of the 4 and 5 inch scale Toy Biz figures from back in the day, and then when the Marvel Legends kind of made their announcement that they were coming, I actually sold those out to another collector so I could begin another adventure with this line, because for me it's an all or nothing. I can't have a couple of 5-inch figures and a couple of 6-inch figures. It was kind of, I'm all in
Yeah.
or I'm all out.
Yeah. It's
So
yeah.
so that's with the Star Wars.
I got a
I'm
cousin.
sorry.
I got a cousin like that. Very much, my cousin Mike. If you're listening, he's very much like that with the mini busts that Marvel was putting out throughout the '90s and early 2000s. He 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 amassed this massive collection because he would get one Avenger and then go, well, now I got to get all the Avengers. And I would try to tell him, Mike, you don't need to get all the Avengers. You like Captain America. You just got Captain America.
Yeah.
And that's how it would blossom. So you're the same way with figures. Do you have like a dedicated room for this on Long Island at your crib?
This is why Mrs. Earl is so amazing. One of the many reasons she is so amazing is we have a 1-bedroom apartment downstairs that is my man cave.
Uh-huh.
And it's all toys. It's so
Wow.
the bedroom part is the Star Wars and Marvel Legends wing, and the rest is GI Joe. And as I said earlier, I've been at this since 1982. I haven't stopped. So there's one thing I've come to really appreciate talking to other collectors is I've really learned there's no wrong way to collect GI Joe.
Right.
There's people that keep them in the package. Awesome. There's people that just collect Cobras. Awesome. There's people that collect just 12-inch. Awesome. There's no wrong way to do it. I have a little bit of, I like to have examples of carded items and mint in box items just to kind of maintain that evolution of package design. But I open my items, I display them, I take very, very good care of them. And I have, as far as Hasbro goes, not all the sideshow and import type things, but I have everything released in the United States by Hasbro since 1982.
Whoa!
And it's not only
Whoa!
the 3 3/4 inch figures, it's also the GI Joe Extreme. Obviously, we'll be talking about that today. GI Joe Sergeant Savage.
You buried the lead,
Scale.
man. You buried the lead. Rewind 5 minutes when I say, "Hey, what's the state of your collection like?" You need to lead with, "I have everything."
Well, there's got to be something that I don't have, and the one thing that's always one thing that's so astounding going to these GI Joe shows and conventions is as together or collected that I have the size of it. There's always a bigger fish. You know, there's always someone that has 500 Televipers or something like that. I'm super happy with how I've collected it, and there's a lot of people that stopped at Joe versus Cobra, or stopped at Spy Troops, or stopped with Valor Venom, or stopped with Sigma 6. Kind of with the packaging aspect, I just like that maintaining the bloodline. This is part of our GI Joe history.
Of course,
I've always just tried to keep tabs on that and support it. And
well, that's the
same thing with Classified.
And that's the same kind of attitude that this show has taken in regards to Extreme, because this is very much the forgotten stepchild of GI Joe when it comes to the animation stuff, and it's really doesn't deserve that kind of handle. You know, you could still get all the figures online for relatively cheap. That's how few people care about GI Joe Extreme. And
it's wild, right?
Yeah, I think it's a delightful show. I think it is absolutely, sure, it's not the Real American Hero stuff, but back in the day, the Real American Hero stuff wasn't the 12-inch stuff.
Right.
They struck out. They did something different, and it's good. I would say by and large, most of these episodes, occasionally there's a clunker, but most of these episodes are really solid and really well done. Had you seen any of the Extreme episodes? Because you said you've got a lot of you've got all the collected figures. Yes. Had you seen any of the episodes before?
I did. This is where my brain kind of goes in a different direction. You know, with being all in, I definitely would say I'm more focused on the toys. You know,
Mm-hmm.
even with the comic books, I was all in with the Marvel run, and even the special missions and the Transformers versus GI Joe, the Marvel
Mm-hmm.
series of that. But then when I was so all in, and also starting to go into a little bit more of the relaunch of Star Wars in 1995 and the Marvel stuff, then something had to give. And unfortunately, at that juncture, I said, I can't afford these $2 and $3 comic books, you know,
Right.
every week or every month. So that went on the back burner. And when actually GI Joe Extreme came out, I did pick some of those comic books up, and the Devil's Due and the IDW. I really didn't get too wrapped up in. But the saving grace in that is that so much is available digitally now,
Right.
and my son Bobby has actually started to get interested in the GI Joe IDW series on his tablet. So he's starting that. He's reading that before
The
I am,
new
which
one,
is
the
awesome.
Paul Aller one.
He's actually reading the initial. I guess they put it in a trade paperback. The Larry Hama, Augustin Padilla
Oh, so that's
IDW
yeah, so
Real
that's
American
the
run.
continuation, yeah, the continuation of the Real American Hero stuff. Yeah, absolutely, that's great.
And then with the animation, kind of, you know, as that animation came out, I was still keeping my tabs on all the toys. But as I was older, I was going into college. I was starting to work full time.
Mm-hmm.
Even the DIC series, I didn't. I think I've seen them all, but they're not as
They're
vibrant in my
li-
memory as
li-
the Sunbow stuff.
Listen, after going through both seasons of the DSC, and then now just we're almost finished with the Extreme stuff. It's a shame that DSC is readily available and Extreme is not readily available on DVD. Hashtag release the Extreme because yeah,
I
I mean,
support that.
there's
Yeah.
certainly a few bright spots in the DIC era, but if you're talking percentage of quality, Extreme has it beat.
Oh, agreed, agreed. And the voice talent too is
Yes, yeah.
that is, pardon the pun, half the battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
Well, it
it's
makes you.
something that
It
that
makes me
goes
wish.
into it.
It makes me wish that they had with the. And I guess it's life. It's the progression of things. They make choices and then they learn from them. It sounds like there were so fewer episodes of Extreme, but it seems like they made more out of their budget. So if they had maybe made less episodes of the DIC stuff, they could have taken that budget and made a better cartoon with with half the number of episodes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Because so much of that DSC stuff was, repurposed music, d- just repurposed images, just, you know, listen to any of the DSC episodes and you'll see that. But with great character designs by our friend of the show, Chuck Patton, the designs were great. It's just it was a budget issue, and with Extreme, the designs are different. Some of them I think are better than others, but they're just different. They're more that hero design, that buff. I'm going to be a
Yeah, well,
superhero.
they
Yeah,
they they match the toy line,
and they
which went in a
totally
different
match.
direction.
Right, it totally matches the toy line, and you got the way that they're doing the animation matches the budget that they had for the number of episodes. So you don't really get really poor animation. It's just it's not bright, vibrant, and fully rendered as the Real American Hero stuff is, but it absolutely has its charm. So I'm glad you're coming on board the train. So of course, as a guest of the show, of course I gave you a link to the full Google Drive with all the episodes. So feel free to download those and you can watch them yourself. We've got, as of this recording, ladies and gentlemen, we've got 2 recordings left for Extreme. So there's 2 slots open. So if you hear this, reach out. I may or may not have filled it by the time you hear this. This will be airing in a couple weeks. But we have 2 slots left to wrap up the G.I. Joe Extreme era, and then we're going to be rolling into Spy Troops. We're going to be doing something special for
Cool,
Spy Troops. I don't know what we're doing, but it's going to be something different.
cool.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was a fun. That was a fun toy line.
It is. And I watched a little bit of that. I try to keep it fresh for the episode, so I try not to watch ahead. I watched a little bit of that to make sure the DVD worked, and then I watched a little bit of the Valor Venom.
Hmm.
And what I was really struck with, and we'll certainly talk more about this when we get to those episodes, is how the animation, the CG animation at the time which was burgeoning. It actually made them look like action figures moving. which
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
it was a little like that Toy Story look.
yes, it really was, and that was really appealing to me. Like there was a real charm to that, and I liked it quite a bit. So more on that to come. That'll be in the coming weeks. But
Cool.
for now, John, we're watching Fear at 50 Fathoms, where we've got Harpoon, Mayday, Red goes on a mission, which is fantastic, and Steel. They have to go underwater to the Bermuda Triangle, which then takes them underwater, to investigate a series of things, whatever happens, what always happens at the Bermuda Triangle, which is planes go missing, mysterious things. And I love the reveals on this episode. I love some of the character designs on it, which we'll get to as we go. And the resolution and the MacGuffin behind it all is fantastic. It's absolutely awesome. This is a great episode, Fear at 50 Fathoms. So, listeners, while you're getting your DVDs, or actually, well, I guess bootleg DVDs, or your video files are ready to watch, go on the internet and you can find me at Joe and Joe Pod. That's at Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. You can send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. If you want to be a guest on the show, we will happily have you on, which is what John Earl did. And John, you can find online at the Instagram at halfthebattle13. And he's got some really cool pictures of some really rare, awesome pieces from your collection. I like that. We're going to talk about that a little more as the show goes on. And he's got some of his own personal artwork up there, too, which we're also going to talk about. I'm very excited to get into with you. And with that, John, are you ready to start watching some G.I. Joe Fear at 50 Fathoms?
Let's get into it.
Man, let's do it. Without any further ado, listeners, get ready to hit play. And here we go. So, when you first saw, and maybe it was for you, maybe it was in the toy aisle, John, when you first encountered the Extreme guys, what were your thoughts? Like, what was your impression?
I think my very first spot of the Extreme was actually at the 1994 Intrepid show. There was a G.I. Joe collecting show on an aircraft carrier in New York City, which was spectacular. And that was the debut and launch of the then 30th anniversary 12-inch figures and the 3 3/4 inch ones just like it. And that was when Hasbro revealed that they're going into this new direction.
Wow.
That it was going to be there was currently a Sergeant Savage line, and before it really could get its feet under it, they pivoted and we're going to go into this Extreme line. And so I think there was just images. They didn't have prototypes or anything like that. But when I think it was right before or right after Christmas, I saw the Extreme figures in the Toys R Us aisle. I kind of knew they were coming, so I was kind of expecting them, but not then. Usually that's not when a new toy line debuts, right before Christmas. It's usually well after the inventory periods kind of cycle through and you see some new things in the spring. And I said, okay, I'm all caught up with my other figures. I'm in. I'm gonna pick this up. It was different. I was a little skeptical because the very first thing that comes to mind for a G.I. Joe figure is fully posable, and these were not. So that was
Right.
was a big paradigm shift for anyone to see. But it was exciting. It was with the times. There were a lot of toy lines that were embracing molds and sculpts like that, and it was G.I. Joe. So I was in.
Yeah. And did you have any? Well, before we go into that follow-up question, on the show, guys, what we had was it opened with the Inter-Alliance Task Force. They were running some missions in the Bermuda Triangle, and their airplanes disappeared. They had 3 super secret stealth fighters that just disappeared off the radar. There was electrical storms, all the things you would associate with the Bermuda Triangle. And these planes disappeared. So now, back at G.I. Joe headquarters for the first time, we're seeing it's Mayday, Harpoon, Stone, and Red. And they're going on a mission to the Bermuda Triangle to figure out what's going on. And Clancy's showing them that there's this super stealth plane that's what's missing down there. That's kind of what went missing. So these guys are tasked with finding out what happened to it. And also I think if they can't find it, they need to, destroy it, because they don't want it to fall into enemies' hands, assuming it wasn't destroyed. So to follow up with your your first impact with the G.I. Joe team, did you have any issues around getting that they were rebooting it, that it wasn't a continuation of of the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow and Scarlet and all that stuff, that this was kind of a fresh reboot? Was that easy for you to wrap your head around?
I was because they were keeping, they kind of connected some of the dots. They had the Sergeant Savage character that was kind of signed off on from the videotape he came with by a couple G.I. Joe members, and then he had his one and done kind of episode, but then they kept Sergeant Savage into the Extreme line, so it kind of connected the dots enough. And as crazy as it sounds from such a long time fan as we are, I was excited to see a new direction, see what they could do with this.
Yeah.
And there were definitely parallels with a lot of the characters. Harry Hama was involved with the development of it, of course, and so there were some callbacks and references and to some of the characters.
You definitely see some influences. So the guys are the whole guys animated. The whole team they're putting on some scuba gear right now, which is great because I love seeing on the cartoon when they take the effort to put them in redesigned costumes. That's always exciting. The best part here though is Harpoon, who, if you're familiar with the way the character looks, he has very 90s grunge like hair that covers half of his face. They drew that in the scuba gear that is still covering half of his face.
Yep,
so he doesn't
he
doesn't tuck it into his wetsuit. It is, so now we're looking at him in the diving helmet. Yeah, in the diving helmet, through the glass of the diving helmet, and he still has the hair covering half of his face. I love that. It's hilarious.
He's such a good diver, he only needs one eye to see.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like, it is absolutely hilarious to me.
I love even the sound effects, the bubbles going off from the breathers. It's just, it's a lost detail.
Yeah, they're doing a good job. It's underwater adventures are always tricky to animate and and draw in flat comics and also animate. Like, how far is too far? How many bubbles are too many bubbles? How blue should the ocean be? You know what I mean? So there's all these little visual tricks that they like to employ, and it's like the occasional
the background.
Yeah, right. The occasional bubble reminds you. In this case, they've drawn it, and then they're also doing. I don't know if they were doing this in a computer or however they were doing it, but then there's this wave effect on the whole animation too, which is great because it makes you look like there's a camera in the water with them, and the water's distorting the view of it.
Look.
So great, yeah, so smart. They just ran into some underwater. Like a lamprey or something, like, so. Oh wow, that whatever that creature is, it just has Red's entire foot in his mouth, and Red is screaming like he's going to die as we go into the commercial break. We'll be right back.
Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts, and you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie, it's about not two movies, it's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Penseriga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out one episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show.
So 50 fathoms under the Atlantic Ocean, Red is getting his leg chewed off. And so far, no scar. You know, it's my campaign slogan. So far, no scar. Red is just straight getting, but it's actually not jaws, like mouth. There's actually creatures, underwater Aquaman creatures that are dragging Red to his death. He's the literal red shirt of this episode.
It's creepy. It's
Yeah,
creepy.
they come out of nowhere. Now, do you have, so you said that you like to open them and check them out. Do you have like a full set of Extremes still in packaging and then a set open, or are they mostly open? Because you sent me some great pics from the unreleased stuff in America that ended up being released. I think you said it was released in India?
Well, the picture from India was from Fun School. That was the outlet that they were finally able to get what would have been known as the Tiger Hawk for G.I. Joe Extreme. It was the helicopter, and it actually had some tiger stripe kind of paint job on it. If it had been released in the United States, there may be some paint masters or prototypes in collectors' hands that I don't know about, but the mold never saw the light of day in the United States. Years later, India's Fun School company re-released that, but to be marketed with the 3 3/4 inch figures. So it's the same mold. It's a little bit different paint job, a little bit different colors and stickers that it comes with, but it was same exact mold for the 3 3/4 inch figures under the Fun School moniker. Another image I had sent you was the deluxe wreckage figure.
Yeah.
And there was actually a regular wreckage figure as well. I don't have that, but I believe alongside the deluxe one, there was some cards made available. How limited they are, I'm really not too sure. For a little while, Hasbro actually owned a private store in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, that some of these items were made available to employees or contacts in that avenue. And I know, for example, there's a Mayday figure out there. There's
really?
Carded as well.
Wow.
The Thundering Tank was released in very, very short supply, if not maybe just salesman samples. That tank would later on become the Small Soldiers tank with the eyeball sticking out, if you recall that.
Yeah. Well,
so that was the basis for that tank.
This is awesome, and we're going to revisit this. But to catch up on the show, the Joes fought off, or they're still fighting off, these underwater monster, aqua monster, like creatures from the Black Lagoon, basically. But Red is quickly learning why it's best that he doesn't go on these missions.
Yeah,
and
Red's
stays
in bad shape.
Yeah, and stays in the pit because he had his wetsuit got torn open, and so water was leaking in and air was leaking out. Harpoon.
But I love how they actually run with the implications of that.
Yes.
That damage to a suit. That's really cool.
And so Harpoon, when he was going after him, he lost one of his flippers, and the way they animated his swimming then changed because he locked his legs together and he was only swimming with one foot. And that little detail is brilliant because
other cartoons would have just animated him with the fin back on.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple frames later.
Yeah, exactly. And it was great. And so when he got to Red, he then cut off a piece of the hose of Red's hose that was snapped off, and he used that as a tourniquet to stop the tear in Red's suit. And now they have to fix the fact that Red doesn't have any air in his overall doesn't have any air. So now they're sharing their breathers with Red. It's like all these and that hair that Harpoon hair is great. But all these little details are so good. Yeah.
do the storytelling without dialogue underwater is great. You know, that's how to do it.
Yeah, it's really solid, and the fact that they just met an entire new species of mermen, they're just like, oh, okay, like that's,
This is
you know,
what we got to deal
like,
with.
yeah, we don't know what they are, but they think they're aliens, but they don't exactly know what's going on, and which is great because it keeps up the mystery here of, you know, the Bermuda Triangle. So as they've resurfaced now, this giant glowing orb is also surfacing on the water.
Yeah, this is very much like the abyss.
Yes.
As this thing comes up.
Yes. And this whole time, Mayday has been flying overhead. We don't see that. She's out of the episode. She comes in a little later. Oh, actually, here she comes right now. So this is where Mayday's been the whole time. So they have not forgotten about Mayday. But she's going to fly in to kind of check them out. And as she does it, an electrical storm happens again, which is the same type of electrical storm that we saw in the first act, when the secret stealth plane, when the stealth fighter went missing. So they're swimming towards the bubble because they're pretty sure that she's going to be in trouble. And she certainly is, even though as good a pilot as she is. That jet's also awesome, by the way. So we go to
that was never toy free.
It's great. We go to commercial. We're going to be right back.
Today's file card is on the elite space pilot, the Cobra Blackstar. His file name is unknown. Primary Cobra specialty is elite space pilot. The secondary Cobra specialty is the tactical squad leader. The Cobra commander has formed an alliance with Blackstar forces, a secretive legion of space pilots whose origins remain unknown. This particular Cobra Blackstar is the best pilot out of all the Blackstar ranks. He, like all Blackstars, behaves as if space were his natural environment. They have incredible agility in zero-gravity zones. They climb planetary craters with ease and instinctively avoid asteroid belts while engaged in stellar dogfights. No one has ever seen a Blackstar up close, and rumors have spread throughout the galaxy that they might not even be human. Well, first of all, no one has ever seen a Blackstar up close sounds kind of dumb. How did you not see these guys? Like, maybe like no one on Earth, but at some point they have to be recruited. Secondly, they might not even be human is exciting. I like this figure. It is, if you've never seen the Blackstar, it's one of the final figures they made in '94. He's got a yellow body with bright green leggings and tubings and a black mask. It's a cool look. He kind of looks like a Cobra-fied version of Airtight. He came with a working launcher with missiles and a backpack. He's pretty cool. I wonder if the mystery of whether or not they were human has ever been addressed in any of the comics. Like, they made reference to it, of him being some kind of alien. If this guy ever even appeared in the comics, that I do not know the answer to as I record this. So I like him. I kind of cool. I usually don't like these later era Joes from an aesthetic standpoint, but this one stood out to me. I kind of dig what he's got going on, and the name's great. It's a Cobra Blackstar. Whoever you are, space alien, we salute you.
So, John, you really do it does sound like you really have a great insight into a lot of the manufacturing of this stuff. Have you, over the years, befriended some of the guys that have worked on making the toys in any capacity, or what's your connection to that? Like, how is that relationship grown?
It's really the majority is from going to the G.I. Joe conventions over the years. You know, I up until only very recently have I really gotten involved in Instagram or social media in that regards. I'm on a couple of Facebook groups regarding G.I. Joe, but going to the shows, going to talk to the designers or the folks that were running the brand every year, and that was, you know, the one thing that I've seen is the brand manager would change a little too often, and I think that's why we would see pivots in the direction of the line, because it would be a different person in charge every 2 years or so. But that was, you know, they were very giving with some information, not very giving with others, but they really helped me connect some of the dots, and just because I was along for the ride from day one, it was a little easier, I guess, for me to pick up some of the details and connect some of the dots and talking to them and other collectors. You know, I'm learning something every day from other collectors, and I hope that continues.
That's great. We're just finding out the actual plots. We finally met we finally have encountered Scar and Darklaw.
And he's huge.
He's great. I think he's awesome, and he's playing up this alien, imagery, so that people wouldn't suspect that it's Scar doing this stuff. But what they've done is they've kidnapped all the pilots and they're brainwashing them. We're going to find out what they're brainwashing them to do in a little bit, but that's so far what we've gotten. Mayday has learned that. Meanwhile, the Joes are infiltrating this half quote alien base. It's actually the Scar base. Well,
and they're continuing how Red is all tired and beat up.
That's Red is
storytelling.
Yeah,
he's selling that in.
It is great. I mean, Red is Scotty on this show. Red absolutely is the Scotty of this show. So what gets it's getting me excited talking to you is that you've got all this great information and you've got these decades of collecting connections and info, and you're going to be sharing them very soon with G.I. Joe fans all over the world, because you are starting you're in the early stages of starting your own podcast, Knowing the Battle podcast. Is this right?
That is very true. Thank you. That is a labor of love that my good friend Mike Elhart and I are trying to get going within the next couple of weeks. Is our very own podcast, and he's the same age as me. We were both born way back in 1970.
So you're young and vital. I get it. I get it.
So we just have, there's so many great podcasts out there about G.I. Joe, and we've been inspired by all of them, including yours, and we have our own story to tell.
Yeah.
And I think that other perspective from a slightly older generation with the 3 3/4 inch brand can do that, and I look forward to continuing to learn from other collectors and fans, and me being able to give back in any way I can to the community with what I know, what I can share. I'm all in.
That's awesome. So I be on the lookout for that, guys. I will certainly retweet and share that when you guys are ready to launch and all that, for sure.
Thank you.
But as of this recording, it's still in the nascent stages, but that's really exciting. And over on your Half the Battle page, you share some of your own personal artwork that you were telling me you're interested in exploring that avenue.
Yes, my bucket list, one of the things on that bucket list is to really take my art talents, and however I can get in the door with G.I. Joe, that's something I want to be able to say that I did, whether it's a toy design or a comic book or even coloring books and the esoteric items. I just, nothing would be cooler, I think, to add to my collection with just some of my my artwork infused in it. And it's a passion of mine, both drawing and G.I. Joe. To put them together is would be something really special for myself. So, but with our podcast coming, I want to be able to offer fans those images. I'm going to be drawing and giving out an image every time we do a show and reach out to the fans, and again, try to give back to the community any way we can.
That's really cool. So make sure, listeners, you go to Half the Battle 13 on his Instagram. I'm sure that'll be one of the places you update people on the status of the podcast, but also to check his stuff out and check out some of this collector ephemera, some of this old school stuff. You've got some really great images on there, and I hope you keep putting more up there. I think we've got a really great angle for a show, and I think it's the way you described it as a story to tell is absolutely perfect and absolutely what we need. So one of the things, well, actually, before we get into finding out what team you'd be on, guys, on the show, what we found out was that Ironclaw was, I think I called him Darklaw earlier. I always do that. Ironclaw was brainwashing these pilots to attack the United States. So he's brainwashing them in like VR simulations to get used to destroying the United States and Paris and the whole world in a World War III scenario. So that's pretty dark and pretty great. Project X style stuff. Like, it's great. So he's made his escape, and the island's going to self-destruct. We're going to see if they... Now, I got to be honest, as this episode's wrapping up, I think those mermen, I don't think that they were plants by Iron Claw. I think
There
those
were
were
actual-
legitimate mermen.
No, there were actual. The Joes found the costumes.
Oh,
in
they
an
did?
earlier
Did I
scene.
miss that?
Yeah.
Oh,
There
I
was-
missed
there was
that.
Little masks.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's when they're-
Okay. I was really
used
hoping that
that.
it was just a forgotten plot point that they
I'm
discovered
sorry, I didn't
alien
mean to
life.
squash your dreams.
No. I'd much rather have the reality. So on this show, John, I love to get ask my guests if they could be a member of the Joe team, Cobra, Scar, Joe Extreme, whatever team they want to be on, Dreadnoks. What team would you be on? What would your specialty be, and what would your code name be? Do you give any thought to this?
Oh yeah, I'm Cobra.
Oh boy.
Cobra all the way. I love the heels. Always loved the heels as a wrestling fan. Always loved the bad guys with GI Joe. Scrap Iron's probably my favorite GI Joe Cobra figure, and I would love to help him out in any way I could, blowing things up, doing his dirty work, and I think being a lifelong AC/DC fan, I think my code name would be Live Wire.
Oh, nice. Livewire. I thought you were leaning towards Thunderstruck, but I like Livewire as well.
That's a good one. I like that.
Livewire works. You're an explosive expert for Cobra.
Blowing things up. Like
Well,
it was-
welcome to the Joe on Joe squad, or or rather Cobra, Joe and Cobra squad. Livewire, welcome to the team.
Thank you, sir.
Happy to have you. And the Joes escaped. So Iron Claw, he set the island to self-destruct, and the Joes were able to jump on that stealth plane and escape with all the captured soldiers, or all the captured pilots, rather. And it's exciting. This was a fun episode. I really liked it. What did you think of it?
I really liked it. This is a little bit lighter than a lot of the other episodes.
Yep.
With the underwater environment was definitely a presented challenge, but it's not as dark and gritty as a lot of the other episodes. And this was fun. It was kind of a throwback to like those 1950s kind of black and white sci-fi movies.
Yeah, this is very much like it's like issue 13 of a comic book. They just wrapped up 12-issue run of this big epic storyline, and then you go, oh, okay, let's just send them on a random adventure and have fun with it. Oh, okay. That's what this was. This was issue 13, and literally it was episode 11 of season 2. I really dug it, and frankly, I really dug talking to you, John, and getting to know you. It sounds like you're going to have a lot of really, really cool information to share with people on your new podcast.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me. This was really exciting to do. I've been listening to your show for quite some time, and you and some others have really inspired my friend and I to try to do our part in giving back and really supporting the Joe brand.
Well, that's the best compliment you could give me. I appreciate it, and it's lovely to hear that the inspiration is there. So I can't wait to hear it. John Earl, or should I say Livewire, thanks for being on Joe Extreme!
Thank you very much, Joe.
All right, and now you, Joe, and Joeing is half the battle. Extreme!